Okay, Sally.
Yes, okay. I'm recording the meeting now.
Right. All right, roll call then. We've got Councillor Bentley, yes.
Yes.
Brown.
Yep.
New. Jane Bolton, yes.
Yeah.
Burns, yes. I can see Rosalind.
Yeah.
Apple, yes.
Yeah.
James Samakin, not yet. And Angela,
Yes, here.
yes. Steve, yes.
I'm here.
Yes,
no.
here.
Lucy,
Wrong, Steve.
no. Kim,
Kim sent apologies. She may be late.
okay. Stephen,
Here.
yeah, Stephen. Liz, yes.
Yep.
Bethia sent apologies and me. I think that's it, isn't it? Yeah. So item 2 then, apologies for absence. We've had apologies from Bethia, Thomas and David Grant. And you think,
I'm here. I'm here.
oh, David, you're in. Good. And David Grant.
David Brown is here, not David Grant. David
No,
has
no,
sent
David Grant,
apologies.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Item 3 then, minutes of the meeting of 13th of January. So if we look at those for accuracy, please. Page 1. Page 2. Page 3. And there's items on page 4. Now, is it your wish I sign those as a true record at the appropriate time?
Yes, great.
Yes, that's fine.
Thank you. Item 4 then, declaration
Yes.
of interest and request for dispensations. Anybody? Nope. Item 5 then, public participation time. Have we had any questions? Sorry. Sorry.
Oh dear.
You've gone quiet.
Hi, sorry, Mike. That was James from the police station was calling me on my mobile trying to get into the meeting. Sorry, can you repeat the question?
It's public participation time. Sally, have we received any questions?
No, we haven't.
Right. And do any member of the public wish to speak on any of the business? No. Okay then. Item 6 then, reports from outside bodies and to receive and consider reports. And you said Thames Valley Police, Sally. Have we got a report now?
So James, our PCSO is here, but I don't think he's got a microphone. Have you, James?
Can you hear us now? I've just
We can hear you.
Lovely.
Hello, can you
Sorry,
hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry, we're having a few technical issues.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Sorry, are you ready for our updates? Are you? Sorry.
Yes, please.
Okay,
please,
lovely
yeah.
job. Right, so main things on the agenda from us. It's been fairly quiet recently, obviously with COVID. Touch wood, we've not had too many issues, but ones that would be of interest to yourselves. We've had one burglary. These are going from Christmas, sorry. One burglary. Unfortunately, that was filed with no lines of inquiry. There's just no evidence at all to go on. We've had 3 drugs offences, which have all been packages containing drugs to be sent out. One of them's had a cannabis warning issued, and the other 2 are currently under investigation, hopefully with the same outcome once we've obviously got through the investigation. We've had one theft, which was a water bowser taken off one of the local building sites. Again, unfortunately, that was no lines of inquiry and has been filed due to insufficient evidence. Antisocial behaviour has been very good, touch wood. We've had 2 reports. One of them was a resident has been smoking cannabis, which we've attended, offered words of advice, had no further calls, so hopefully that sort of nips that one in the bud. And then we've had another one, is a neighbour reporting antisocial behaviour from their direct next door neighbour, which has been a bit of an ongoing issue. Again, words of advice have passed, and furthermore to that property, there's been a closure order put on it, but I'll go into more detail on that in a moment. So closure orders in the area, we've had 2, both linked to believed drug activity and large numbers of people coming and going. One has very recently been lifted, but as a neighbourhood team, we're still regularly engaging sort of every other day if we can to make sure we keep that those issues to a low. And the other one is still currently got their closure order in place. So obviously we're going pretty much every day to touch base with them and obviously see if they're breaching their closure order. The youths of Farringdon, we've had literally no demand on police at all. Very, very rarely see any of our sort of local teams that we regularly used to come in contact with out. I'd say mainly due to weather and obviously due to COVID. So there's no real concern from us regarding the user in the area. And then last one is COVID breaches. We've had numerous reports. That's in Farringdon, but it's been all over the board. There's been reports sort of all over the place, not particularly high here at all. These have been attended, words of advice have been passed and no breaches identified, apart from one, which was a few days ago, where a ticket was issued for a breach of COVID. So they'll be getting a £200 fine. And that's about it as far as it goes from us. Like I said, it's been, touch wood, fairly quiet with nothing overly majorly concerning. Is there any questions for us? Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I've got a question.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for coming. It's lovely to have you. I'm one of the councillors that moans perpetually when you don't come. So thank you. It's great to have a report that's about Farringdon. Did I just understand that correctly, that there's been one fine in Farringdon?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, for the COVID disobedience. And comments about the repercussions of any mental health and domestic violence in the town.
Mental health, we've not had any. I've been brought to my attention, or nothing like major concerns. We have like the very low level sort of mental health issues, but nothing that's like high level is going to cause concern to anyone. And domestics, again, they have. I'll say they've been on a rise. I wouldn't say they've been a rise. It's just where we've had less calls of other nature, it seems to stand out more. But we've not had, I wouldn't say, an influx in any. And again, they're not necessarily in Farringdon, they're sort of within the surrounding villages. So again, I wouldn't say there's any sharp rise or any concerns around domestics from our sort of perspective. Like I said, they just seem to stand out more because there's less crimes going on, sort of less other crimes. So they just stand out a bit more, that's all.
Thank you. And just a flippant one really about the otters, and has there been any civil disobedience that's involved the police?
So yeah, my colleague will chat now because he's sort of the person I'll say in charge of the otters, but
yeah, I'm on Otter Watch.
Otter protection.
Yeah, no, I'm in close contact with Irene and her husband, who looks after the sort of the folly down there. There has been sort of reports of large groups of people, but you know, when we get down there, we try and get down as quickly as possibly can, but by the time we get down there, they're gone. I do know that they damaged the fence, and I do know that not the otters, but people have damaged the fence, and I know that they are getting the fence repaired, and they are getting it sort of otter proof, so to speak. They're putting some really sort of tight fencing around the bottom, so hopefully once they're out, they can't come back in. I think they are trying to find out where they're coming in from. There is a meeting happening soon, which I am going to go to with Irene and a few other people from sort of wildlife and stuff like that, just to try and sort of get a good perspective on what is actually going to go on. But yeah, I know they are being a bit of a pain down there. I know.
There is from what I've understood, there is currently a bailiff down there sort of offering words of advice to people. I don't know if that's sort of a full-time thing, what hours, etc. they're down there. But there is someone around there sort of offering words of advice to people that are turning up to take pictures of our furry little friends.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Stephen's got his hand up.
Stephen, thank you, Stephen.
Thanks, Mike. Just in a point of clarity there, are you saying that the people responsible for the fishing pond are trying to put a fence to ensure that the otters are not allowed back into the pond?
I think that's what they're trying to do. Yeah, I think the Irene, who runs the Angling Association, I think that because they pay to rent, I think they're the ones that put money into to be able to get the fish in the pond and things like that, and they rent a part of the fencing around there. And I think the part of that they're renting is the part that's been damaged. So I think they're in contact with the council to try and get them to put some sort of real tight, almost like tight mesh fencing, I suppose, around the bottom, so that the otters can't actually get back into the pond. Because I think they're obviously the people that fish down there are getting a little bit annoyed that they're obviously going in and eating all the fish and eating everything that's down there in sight. So
obviously the Wildlife Trust are in close contact with her, so it's not going to be a case where they're going to just stop the otters getting in the pond. Obviously, there's going to be plans, etc., put in place once, obviously.
I think that's what this meeting is for. So the meeting will happen, and then they'll obviously just go from there to whatever gets decided. So
we need to have obviously discussions around what the plan is with the otters in the long term, so to speak, because obviously they are protected species. So that, like my colleague said, that will be brought up in the meeting. Obviously, that will be discussed as if they're going to be staying there, or what sort of the plan of action is. Obviously, once we know ourselves, we can obviously update you in the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. Thank you.
No worries.
Anybody else?
Mike, can I just ask briefly? I don't want to make it about the otters because it's not the point, really, is it? But just with that, I mean, otters are a great attraction. We've seen the interest. What's the feasibility about having it as more of a wildlife pool without the fishermen? I don't know.
I mean, I'm not the person to make that decision. I mean, they would have to.
The ponds. It's not us, is it?
No, it's very difficult from a police perspective. We wouldn't have any sort of say over that whatsoever.
No, I don't know the ins and outs of who actually owns what. I've just been told by Irene, who I speak to, what they sort of pay to do and what they kind of rent or own themselves. So, yeah, I mean, from her perspective, them being there is quite a nuisance because the people that fish there are obviously getting quite annoyed and things like that. So you've got one side of the coin there, and then the other side of the coin is, they are a nice little attraction to have. If you go for a walk and see a couple of otters, in the pond, it's actually quite nice. So yeah, it's tough to make a decision.
All that ground's owned by the district council, and I think the problem is with the otters that they'd run out of food, wouldn't they? And then move on if they cleaned the fish out, presumably either rehoming or
once we've had the meeting, we've seen obviously, like I say, what the plan of action is. We can certainly keep you all updated as soon as we find out what is going on.
Yeah.
Well, I spoke to the man at the Otter Wildlife Trust, and he's talking to the fisherman club or whatever, and they do seem to have come to some cooperative agreement, but they think it's because the water route has been disturbed by the building of home bargains, and that's forced the river or the water stream, the water course, to reroute around the pond, which has given the otters better access, and that's why they're using it. So I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah, it's all part of sort of natural environment, isn't it? I guess it's sort of just the way it goes.
Yeah, Jane, do you want to?
Yeah, bit of a tongue-in-cheek. Any chance of putting a pond in the wilderness and encouraging them to go there?
There's not a water course, is there? So they wouldn't come.
Yeah, no. It's a bit sort of out of our reams of expertise, unfortunately, other than the pond. It's not something we sort of crops up regularly. So
the policing side of it is that they are a protected species, and obviously you've got the wildlife aspect of it. But apart from that, at the moment, we've got people gathering and COVID breaches and managing that side of things. That's the kind of policing aspect that we look at. The rest of it is obviously down to the people that make the decisions for the wildlife. So yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Thanks very much, gentlemen, for your contribution. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Is there anything else for us at all? Do you mind if we're excused, or is there anything else you'd like
Absolutely.
to?
You're very welcome to go. Thank you.
That is very kind. Thank you very much for your time, everyone. And like I say, once we'll be in the next meeting, we'll give you updates around the otters. And if there's anything else for us, just give us a shout.
Thank you very much.
Lovely. Take care. Thanks very much. Good evening.
Item B then, Farringdon Partnerships Network, and that's been attached. Sally, do you want to talk through this? Because obviously you attended it.
Yeah,
It was
so
very
it's a new
interesting.
group. Yeah, it's a new group that's been brought together to sort of share information, really. So that's all. Sovereign Vale have set it up, the housing association, and it's all the different groups in Farringdon, just so we can share information and make sure we're not doubling up on anything and make sure we're not missing anything. That's very useful.
Yeah. Yeah, it is, isn't it? But well worth it. Thank you very much for that. Very useful. Any questions on that? Okay. Item 7 then, County Council's report. Councillor Heathcote.
Thank you, Councillor Wise. If I can start off with one item that has come to my notice and links into my portfolio at County Hall with regard to regulatory services and trading standards. Some people who live within the division, their behaviour is not what I would call appropriate behaviour within our shops. And it's happening across the county, but I have been made aware of it, that in Tesco's particularly, not so much in Waitrose, people are not liking the fact that they're being asked to wear face masks. And also, at one point, Tesco were counting the number of people going into their store. They have now stopped doing that because of aggressive behaviour. And trading standards are going around the county to see the problems that stores are facing. So I was just wondering, really, if you can talk to friends. Some people have got the idea that when they've had a vaccination, just the one, then they no longer need to wear a face mask. I'm afraid you do. I've had my jab, and it's interesting that people seem to think that that's how they can behave. So there are younger people, middle-aged people and older people, and their behaviour isn't really what I think. The stores are doing a wonderful job getting the commodities in for us to buy and keeping trade going. So if you can speak to friends and see if the message can get round that we'd like people to behave in a nice manner, really, within the shops, that would be great. Then yesterday was budget day at County Hall, and it was an interesting day. We have seen the budget passed. At County Hall, we've got a Labour group, a Liberal Democrat group, a Conservative group, and a few independent councillors. And yesterday, the Labour group made 2 amendments to the ruling party's proposals, but I can say that they didn't increase at all, and we accepted the amendments. It was moving £500,000 to be diverted from general youth services towards the wellbeing support for children. And then a further 225,000 was moved within the adult social care budget to help fund apprenticeships. So that was the changes that Labour made, and we supported that. It was interesting that the Liberal Democrats did not present a budget. And I think that that is strange. And they didn't vote on the budget. They said that they didn't support it. And there has been some extra money within the budget that's will go into highways, will go into children, education and families, will go into adult social care, and will go into drainage systems. And they didn't support it. So I feel that's a shame. But it was quite a noisy meeting. I don't know whether any of you clicked into it, but that's what happened to me yesterday with the budget meeting. So you will get 1% rise within the budget and 1.99% rise. The government allowed us, we could have taken, instead of 1.99 for adult social care, we could have made it 3%. But we were terribly aware that people have had a tough time with employment, earnings are down. So we have taken that into consideration. So the total rise from us at the County Hall is 2.99%, and that gives a Band D rise of £45 per annum. And that was supported by Labour and obviously the Conservatives yesterday. So that was a good day. Then I wanted to advise you outside of my report that yesterday I approve the documentation that is going out for public consultation on the two-form entry primary school in Park Road. So I saw the publicity for the consultation, I've approved it, and that will now go into the public domain. It's either will have gone out late tonight or it'll be going out tomorrow. Then if I turn to my report, I think the first page is quite interesting about what the firefighters are doing and supporting Thames Valley Police and SCAS. If somebody's ill, police up until several years ago were the force that were called to make emergency entrance. Because they haven't got the equipment that fire services have, there was quite a lot of damage often done to homes through no one's fault, but to gain quick access. The fire service and Thames Valley Police and SCAS have been working together, and the fire service have all the equipment that you need to either go up to a window, to open a door and force entry without causing damage to property. And that is now being worked very successfully together, threefold, with the police, with Oxfordshire Fire and Rescue Service and with the ambulance service. And it's fantastic that response times average 9 minutes. So obviously that is very, very wonderful from the point of view of saving lives. I wanted to just say that with Captain Tom dying, all of the Oxfordshire County Council buildings, we actually flew our flags at half-mast in memory of him. Then the fire service have been extraordinarily busy, and it's still carrying on because of the rain we've had, with flooding in the county, and they really have done a superb job. And of course, properties are being flooded not only with water but sewage, so it isn't pleasant. Then I put in a little bit into my report about care homes, and I then put in something that I hope you'll be interested in because it affects us all as ratepayers. It's the report by Her Majesty's Inspector of Constabulary Fire and Rescue Service. Fire are inspected on a regular basis. I am also interviewed as the Cabinet member with the Care for Community Safety, and the report back from Her Majesty's Inspector, Matt Parr, was absolutely superb. And I know all of you support the Farringdon Fire Service, and I know Mike Wise, for example, has always gone up to help when they have their car washes. They're a super group of people, and I'm very proud to have seen the report. It's very, very detailed, and I think that they deserve a pat on the back. Then I've put in, there's a safety message there about Pancake Day, and also having smoke alarms tested. I do hope you've all got working smoke alarms and that you check them every month to see that they are still live. And if you haven't, if you contact me, I can get fire people to come along for safe and well visits, and they will install a fire alarm free of charge. So if you want to contact me on that, do. I've put in comments about the Oxfordshire Library Service and the highways, and then I've put in some news there about work that I have been doing over, it's been several months, on the S106 monies that we ought to be having some benefits from. And that's my report, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Judith. Any questions for Judith? Stephen?
Yeah, thanks, Judith. Given what you said quite rightly in terms of praising what the fire service are doing in Oxfordshire and your acknowledgement of joint work, I just wanted to explore with you what your views on the national employers and the National Fire Chiefs Council unilaterally pulling out of a joint agreement with the FBU and safety.
They didn't come out of the agreement. In actual fact, I've had an awful lot of correspondence because I attend meetings nationally, and I've had correspondence both from Mr. Matt Rack from the FBU and the Chief Fire Council members, and the talking is ongoing. But no, it wasn't. They didn't withdraw. The negotiations were going on, and they broke down.
Okay, that's certainly not what the BBC and the FBU are saying about it. They are saying exactly that the employers have kind of unilaterally reneged on the agreement. I'm concerned about the politicisation of it. I'm kind of worried in the sense that the COVID rate amongst firefighters is very, very low. I think that's partially because of the agreement they have, which they need to be tested before they go back in to service. And my worry is kind of politically motivated attacks like this, given that working people are constantly chided and constantly told they need to get round the table with the employer and reach agreement and bargain and negotiate, and that's quite right and good advice. But when this kind of thing happens, I'm kind of concerned about it. But if you're saying that Oxfordshire County Council have not supported that withdrawal and would support the National Safety Agreement, then I'll be happy about that.
It isn't Oxfordshire County Council. It's interesting. The fire service and the political nuance of an elected member. There are in Berkshire and Bucks, they have a fire authority which is made up of members of the council. They have between 24 to 30 members as the authority, because their fire services are independent and sit outside of the authorities, the elected members. With Oxfordshire, the fire service sits within the county council, and if you like, the fire authority is me. And I meet up with them, but I can assure you that it's definitely, I don't want to be in the blame game, because I have so much respect for the fire service. I meet with the FBU, I chair meetings with the FBU, I go to national meetings when wages are discussed. It's a huge subject, and I can assure you that it wasn't as the BBC, and I'm awfully sorry, as the FBU have portrayed. But you're going to say, well, Judy, maybe you would say that, but I don't like what I call a blame game. It is sensitive, and the fire service have done a wonderful job during COVID, keeping themselves clean from the infection, all their equipment and all the rules and regulations they've had to abide by. So it wasn't quite like that, Stephen.
Okay, Mike, I'll leave it at that. I don't want to take the meeting's time up. But I think Judith and I have got a difference of view on it, but that's fine. I appreciate it, Judith. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Judith? No, thank you very much, Judith. That's very nice. Thank you for your comprehensive report. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. I'll see you on Saturday morning, Mike, when I'm cutting the ribbon.
Yeah. Wrap up warm. Right. So it's now District Councillor's report, which you've had before you. Any questions for that one? We can pass on. I'll just pick up one thing on the Steeds appeal. I've spent the past few days actually writing our case to be submitted on that appeal, which I'm not really looking forward to, but let's hope for the best on that one. Can we note that? Okay.
Mike, can I just ask quickly, it's not regarding the report, but if there was a councillor here, I would have asked the question. I would be interested in knowing what the situation is from their point of view as the owners of the Otter Pond, and what their situation is in terms of allowing the otters to stay or siding with the Fisher licence holder. Thank you.
Okay. Well, Sally can perhaps ask that question for you.
Will do.
Thank you. It's on my report, very brief. Since the last meeting, I had a virtual meeting of the Place Steering Committee. I took part in a Folly Tower Trust meeting with Kira, and I sent a letter to the Whitehorse Medical Practice on your behalf, thanking them for their efficient and speedy COVID-19 vaccination process. I thought it was very effective. Congratulated them on what they've done. Okay.
Mike Stevens' hands up. I don't know if that's a
Stephen.
legacy hand or not.
Legacy, is it? Yeah, thank you, Stephen.
Sorry, apologies. Just ignore that. Give me a sec.
Item 10 then, reports from committees. First is Finance and Audit Committee, the 20th of January 2021. Steve, any comments to make on that?
I don't think so, Chair. The minutes are self-explanatory and they've been circulated, so I'm happy to take any questions.
We need to ratify the approval of the financial risk assessment, which is attached in everyone's papers.
Yeah.
Yeah, the committee, I have to say, the committee went through that report. The Finance and Audit Committee went through the financial management report thoroughly and were happy with the additional measures, that the additional measures required were being put in place. And I think we would recommend the report to council.
Thank you. It's been proposed by Steve and seconded by Angela at the Finance Committee, but full council needs to approve it. So can I propose that we approve the risk assessment? Can I have a seconder, please?
Second that, Chair.
Thank you, Steve. All in favour, please, but indicate.
Aye.
Okay, anybody against? Thank you very much. So that's approved. Is there anything else on finance? Any other questions for Steve? Okay, thank you. B then is Planning and Highways Committee. We have some minutes which have just been circulated. Jane, do you want to go through that? These were meetings of the 3rd of February. You're on mute, Jane.
Yeah, there should be two lots, 27th of January and 3rd of February. Has anybody got any questions?
Okay.
Okay.
One on the 3rd was just to deal with the old Tetronic site. So it wasn't included in the one on the 27th of February, 27th of January. Any comments? No, thank you. We note those. Item 11, which is Clerk's report and schedule of payments. So first is to receive and consider Clerk's activity report. Any comments on that, Sally?
No, nothing to add.
Okay, been very busy as ever. And B is to receive and consider schedule of payments up to and including February the 10th. Anything to say on that one? Any questions? No. Anything to say, Sally?
No, the total.
Thank you. Can I propose that we approve the schedule of payments and pay those outstanding invoices? The seconder, please. Thank you, Angela. All those in favour?
Aye.
Show. Thank you. Anybody against? No, thank you very much. So item 11, item 12, and that is the strategic working party, the 3rd of February, which and it should be attached. Just to note on this, that one, that we are supporting the town centre on the revised short-term objectives. 2, we're promoting all town council good work and improving communication. 3, we're climate change. We continue to tackle with an active working party. 4, we're going to revisit the parking survey. Presume by revisit the parking survey, that's the one done by Mr. Smith. 5, achieve the Gold Standard Award for local councils. 6, to set up a post-COVID working party to support the recovery of the town. 7, to set up a SIL working party and compile a list for spending to take to consultation with residents. So that were the short-term objectives. For anybody that wasn't there, any questions on that? Stephen, are you?
Yes, Mike, thanks. The objectives look really good, and I would support them. I was just wondering, in terms of that first one, which says about, just talks about supporting the town centre, whether we needed to qualify or clarify that to say support it as what, a viable commercially, or as a community space, or as a safe, viable space. What you know, I think it just needs a bit more specific, precise wording than just support it.
Yeah,
Just what does that mean? That can mean a different thing to different people.
Yeah, I think that was my shorthand. I think it really meant in terms of supporting the town centres in terms of business and making sure that empty shops are put to good use and not lost to housing. I think that was one of the principal issues that we had, particularly with things like the volunteer.
Yeah. I mean, I'd kind of drawn that inference from looking at Sally's PowerPoint presentation, Mike, but I just wanted to be, because obviously I wasn't at the meeting, so I apologise. If I'd been there, probably wouldn't have asked the question and made the comment. So that's all I wanted to say about it.
And I think the feeling was, if we lose any of these premises, which are retail or commercial, to housing, once they're gone, and we're going to end up with a sterile town centre. So we've got to try and preserve these for the future, for the increased population that we'll have. If and when all these houses are built and occupied. Okay, and then next was on trusts, and the first one was to install a multi-use games area in Farringdon, preferably on Tuckers Park, and secondly to complete renovations on the old town hall. And there were some actions there. One was these to set up and elect members to a COVID recovery working party. Can we do that now, Sally?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, so that was the suggestion. So a COVID recovery working party to look, look forward to better times. What can we do in terms of COVID recovery? So a working party, how many people, Sally?
Whoever wants to join, really. I think 6 is a good number for a working party.
Volunteers then. Thank you, Angela. Thank you, Liz. Anybody? Thank you, Steve. That's 3.
You also got Kira and Rosalind.
And Rosalind. Thank you very much. You got the name, Sally?
Yes, thank you. And that'll obviously there'll also be an officer assigned to that as well.
Thank you very much. Next was to consider town centre regeneration. How do we approach that? Does that mean a working party, or
I think the initial stage following my presentation is just to perhaps for the town centre regeneration working party to meet again, but also maybe to delegate authority to talk to some developers and just gather some more information.
Yes, do you want to mention your PowerPoint presentation, which you've circulated?
Yes, so I circulated that and we went through it at the strategic working party. It's linked to the research that I did for my degree in that a town centre will only survive if it is a social space and the retail changes. So there are many ways to approach it, and one of the ways to approach it is for the town council to try and protect the bottom floor of space in the town centre. So obviously there's a threat to the retail with the volunteer application, and various other empty properties for them. If the volunteer goes for residential, that many more may follow. So the suggestion in the PowerPoint that I circulated was that we tried to work with developers to protect that bottom floor.
Yep.
Yep. So I think that's what we're saying, Stephen, is trying to make sure it is the ground floor premises. And it'd be ideal if the upper floors many of these properties are actually used for residential, which was all part of the neighbourhood plan, actually, to try and encourage more people to live in the town, but to actually preserve the ground floors, which are accessible for either retail or commercial use.
Yeah, sorry, Mike. I was just to say we had that part of that conversation when we spoke to developers at the planning committee meeting, and views were expressed. And I've obviously given it a lot of thought since then, because I think it's important. But I think what Sally's saying about the ground floor, effectively the footprint of the town centre and what it looks like, is it probably makes the volunteer more important than just saying, well, it's only a small place, which is my view on it. It's a property, it's been left void. If the choices are leaving it derelict or developing it, we should just develop it. But if that's seen as the thin end of the wedge, I get the argument that says you need to preserve what you have, develop it, and make it more attractive. So I probably had a different, we would have had a different conversation at planning, I guess, and although the result would still have been the same.
Yeah, what's the next step on this, Sally, with town centre regeneration?
Kira's got her hand up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think absolutely, Stephen. But the emphasis really of the regeneration working party, town regeneration working party, is about making those informal cultural changes a little bit more natural before they actually come to the town centre or the planning. If we can have conversations in an informal basis with the developers and say, look, develop the top end, how about using the bottom, the underneath for a community project or in partnership with, and we can, by implication, not commit necessarily, but make the right nods and noises to offer some options that may be more attractive to the town and for regenerating. And I think the feeling is at the moment, everything has to go to planning, and it's difficult to have an informal conversation because we haven't really got a strategic take on what's acceptable or what will be looked on favourably. We might know in our little group, but actually I think as an outsider, and most of these developers are, it must be quite daunting, really, and they put something on paper and by that time they've already committed. And I point to the Budgeons development in example, because I think if they'd have come to us earlier, we could have given a much more attractive proposition instead of it bouncing backwards and forwards as it did. And they still haven't started work yet, so it's disappointing. I think we'd like to see it happen quicker.
Well, to be honest, they did talk to us very early on about what was needed for Budgeons. So, and we've had two good examples, haven't we, with Deacons and the Toy Shop, where we have development on the ground floor and accommodation above. I think Budgeons is a different consideration, really. It's to do with access, isn't it? Anyway, we've got a town centre regeneration working party. I presume this is to them then to move this on. Yes.
Yeah, I think at this stage, we need if we'd like to move forward with this, we need to delegate the authority to approach the developers who have proposals in the town at the moment, and maybe others to have some informal discussions with them and try and find out how we can progress this.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't got any other buildings under threat, have we, apart from the volunteer?
I suspect the Red Lion's going to come up soon.
Bank is one that we need to look at. Also on this, Sally, I think it's worth talking to the district council, because there ought to be some development there. I mean, we used to have an economic affairs officer who used to produce plans for future refinement. That's to have gone by the board, but really this should be a district council matter in terms of regeneration for the town and what vision have they got. That's this type of matter. So it'd be very useful to contact them, particularly their economic development unit, to see what plans they've got, if any.
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think at this stage we just need that. I just need that delegated authority to approach.
Yeah. So
some
can I propose that we give Sally that delegated?
Yeah.
Mike, you're on mute. I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to say everything's gone very quiet.
Sorry about that. So I propose that Sally's given full powers delegation on this matter. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Kira. And all those in favour?
Yeah.
Thank you. And E is to receive community survey results. Sally, do you want to talk through that?
Yeah, we obviously went through these at the strategic working party, and they are included in your pack. By far and away the biggest thing that the community wanted to see was for us to support the town centre, so that all sort of gels in together. There were some results there from the when we asked the community about closing the bus lane and also closing London Street. The community didn't want to see the bus lane closed, but they did want some investigation into the redirection of traffic into London Street. And the strategic working party asked me to speak to the county council about options in the town centre for traffic redirection. So I've asked for a meeting with the highways officer so I can report to a future meeting.
Yeah. So we need to get some professional advice on the suggestions. Peter? You're muted, Peter. Peter, you're muted.
Yeah, I'm not muted now. Sorry, I must have been asleep. Did we miss C, D? Did we set up a SIL working party?
No, I'm going to go back on. I'm sorry, I'm going back onto that one.
Oh, okay. I didn't miss it then. I wasn't asleep.
No.
Oh, excellent. I worry about these things.
No. Okay. Do you want to go on, carry on, sir? It was very interesting, wasn't it? We got very good response on that, and it was very useful information. So finally, we need to set up and elect members to a SIL working party. We're going to be receiving monies from various developments, and this is also with respect to S106 as well. And the last time we did this, we did have some open meetings to discuss how we were going to spend these funds, but we need to set up a working party first to actually try and get the priorities right. So it's looking for members to take part in a SIL working party. So this is to look at how we will allocate the funds that we will be getting from developments, such as, for instance, home bargains. So volunteers.
Yes, I'll go, Mike.
Thank you, Peter. Jane?
Yeah, I'd like to be on that as well, please.
David Brown, yes.
Stephen Smith.
Thank you very much.
Yes, please.
James, is that you volunteering?
Yeah, we've got Liz and James and Kira.
Right. Okay. Very important that we get that resolved. Anything else?
I'll call a meeting for that fairly quickly.
Yeah,
Mike, you're on mute again.
Sorry, can I interrupt, Mike? My thing seems to mute me without me muting it, and yours probably does the same. So I think there's a problem here that, you know, if you don't speak for 5 minutes, you're muted.
Someone's trying to tell us something, Peter, I think. Yeah. Any other questions?
Okay,
Anything on the strategic working party?
Yeah.
Okay, moving on then. Item 13, which is
Mike.
license
Sorry,
application.
Sorry, Mike. Councillor Finn had the hands up. Maybe she wanted to speak.
No. It's okay.
No, I
Oh,
haven't
sorry,
got a
no,
hand
was
up again.
sorry, wasn't Finn, was Famakin, James.
Right. Item 13, this is a license application. It says it's for 7A Marketplace, but I understand it's actually for what will Stay Grounded, which is number 7. Is that right, or is it 7A, which is next door, which is between Stay Grounded and the former Market Restaurant? I looked at the map and it says 7A, but I think Stay Grounded is 7. Unless they got the
Stay Grounded is 7A, the house is 7.
Yeah, but on their map, 7A is the house, and they've got 7 as the as Stay Grounded. But it is Stay Grounded. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't have any problems with it.
No. It's very good that they've someone's taking it over and making good use of it.
Absolutely, no problems, no objection.
Anybody got any comments on that? No, thank you. Item 14 then, Old Town Hall renovation. And following the withdrawal of the chosen contractor, we've got to reconsider tenders as recommended by the architect. And we've had a submission from Imperial Renovations, and it's now a matter of approving Imperial Renovations as our contractor. Are there any questions on that? Do you want to say anything, Sally?
No, they were the second choice anyway. We had 4 tenders and they were the second choice anyway of the committee. So I think they're just next down on the list, and they've re-tendered, and the re-tender amount is just slightly above what it was before, but that included some extra items. So I think actually on balance, they re-tendered at the same level.
Thank you very much. So can I have a proposer? Thank you, Peter.
Yeah.
Kira second. All those in favour of approving, please show. Thank you very much. Item 15 then, which is COVID update, and that's receive an update on current situation. And we note that the office is still closed, but outdoor work is continuing. What sort of work's being done at the moment, Sally? Is that the wilderness?
The wilderness and the tidy team work. We've the tidy team have received a loan of some equipment to do some extra tidying today from the super user scheme from County Council. So they've almost reached the bottom of the list that people have suggested. So we're now about to put another shout out for more areas that need tidying in Farringdon.
Good. And note that the food bank is still very busy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're helping between 15 and 20 families a week at the moment.
Good. And has there been have you managed to resolve the situation with the free food with the other people in the compound?
Yeah, that's ongoing.
Okay, thank you. Congratulations on that. That's doing an excellent job. Item 16 then, that's items for information only. We've got one, haven't we, with respect to the War Memorial flower arrangements, which Adele's forwarded, which is very nice. I think it's been a good idea of getting people to different groups to arrange the flowers. Thank you to Adele for coordinating that.
Yeah, agreed.
Any other items for information?
The High Sheriff Awards are open for nominations.
Yep. So this is something the High Sheriff does each year, that they nominate people who make important contributions to community life. I think we've got at least one candidate. If anybody else has any other candidates, please suggest. Kira?
Yeah, thank you, Mike. It was in reference to the War Memorial Flowers. If there's a group, Sally, that wants to just donate money, I'd be very happy to arrange and buy the flowers on their behalf, if you let Adele know.
Thank you.
That says Lady J of ULM, is that? That's last year's, presumably, isn't it, the nomination? It's Sarah Thompsonby now, isn't it, the High Sheriff?
Yeah, well spotted. They obviously sent an old form.
That was Sylvia J, last year's High Sheriff. Oh. Maybe. I don't know. Okay, but it doesn't matter. It's still the High Sheriff's Award. So if you think of anybody that would be worthy of nomination, please tell Sally and put that forward. Okay. Any other items for information? No. Item 17 then is correspondence. List of correspondence has been circulated. Comments on that?
No.
Thank you. And finally, item 18, agenda items for the next meeting. Anybody has any suggestions for the next meeting?
Yeah.
No, but you can always send them in. Okay. Well, if there's no more suggestions for that, then I close the meeting. Thank you very much, everybody, for attending.
Okay.